Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Shift. My host and myself, Linda Lehman, and myself, we're here tonight again, chatting with you about the things in life that make you just absolutely crazy and you can't seem to get yourself out of them. Now, me, I'm used to sticky situations. Most of the time, I'm looking for them. I find them a challenge. They're just things in my life that make me go, wow, and make me powerful inside myself. So I'm always looking for things like that, but many of you are probably not feeling that same way. Many of you are just simply stuck. You're in a rut. You're in a place that is not where you want to be. It could be very, very horrible. It could be, from a relationship not working out to a job not working out, or you're trying to be an entrepreneur and everything you try doesn't work, or health issues have come into your life. It can be many, many things that get us stuck somewhere. And sometimes it's that good old comfort zone. We kind of get there and, I'm at this weight, and you should lose weight, but you kind of say, I'm kind of liking myself at this weight. Maybe I don't look as bad as I thought. Or maybe even got yourself a skinny mirror. Maybe you should quit smoking. But you can find 1,000 different things on the internet that tell you that that's all hokey pokey and you don't need to worry about it. See, the comfort zone is a killer of dreams. It's a killer of health. It's a killer, and it needs to be stopped right now. But I have Linda here, and Linda is very highly trained. Bob Proctor, many other courses she's taken. I work with a team of emotional intelligence people, and we help people through this all of the time. The first two people that we helped out of it was ourselves. Now, we're on the path that is far beyond your path right now. So we don't want to be flippant about this, and we can, because life now is awesome. What we want to let you know is that you can be here. You can be in these shoes. It's going to take you some time to get there. And Linda, tonight, we're going to dedicate this to getting you and giving you the tools that will help you get unstuck and allow you to move forward. And it's going to be just small little inches, but eventually you're going to get up and you're going to start running, and then you're going to feel the power that you have presently inside you is banging, trying to get out, but you just don't have the tools to be able to do that. We're going to give you the toolkit today, and we're going to give you the tools. So I want to welcome right now Linda Lehman. Linda, come on out, and let's chat a little bit about getting stuck.
I would love to, Mark, because I have to tell you, I have been stuck so many times in my life, and for several years, I didn't know how to get out. And you know what else? Sometimes I'm stuck and don't even realize it until I really pay attention. So I love this topic. Because, you mentioned too, Mark, that even though we are, we're living the lives that we have chosen now, but even now, sometimes when we're not paying attention, we both get stuck too. Don't you feel that way?
Absolutely. I do it all the time. And the only reason and the only way that I can get out of it is that I am able to have the tools that allow me to recognize it and to put on the brakes probably a lot sooner than most people can, and definitely sooner than I used to be able to do.
Absolutely, and you hit it on the head there, is recognizing it, and I jotted that down. I want to talk about that, but I think that there are a few things that we want to touch on first to kind of set the stage for being aware of or recognizing when those stuck moments happen, when we're stuck in the mud and we don't even realize it. But so I want to take our listeners back a little bit, and first of all, I want to reassure them and tell them, kick back, relax, cut yourself some slack, because this is probably the one and only time you'll ever hear me say this. It's not all your fault. And the reason I say probably the one and only time is because I'm a big believer in taking full responsibility for absolutely everything that happens in my life. But you'll kind of understand what I mean when I go into a little bit of an explanation. I like to name this stuckness, this stuck feeling that we have. we'll call it Mr. X, that comfort zone that we're all in. And, you know, Mark, I think comfort zone can be a deceiving word because sometimes when we hear comfort zone, we think, you know, life is good and wonderful and great. But the majority of the time, people can be stuck in a comfort zone. It doesn't mean that what they're doing in life they necessarily like and enjoy, but they've gotten used to it. And so, therefore, it is their comfort zone. And so I'd like to call the comfort zone Mr. X. And this came about, our comfort zone was really built before we had, as human beings, the ability to choose how we wanted it to be. In other words, this comfort zone is developed through conditioning and habits that were actually handed down to us from generation to generation, and were actually built by the time we were probably 5 or 6 years old, before we had the ability to stand back and say, yes, I choose this, but no, I don't choose that. And so that's when I say cut yourself some slack, because a lot of these habits, this old conditioning that you're in, was there long before you even realized it was there. But the good news is we can recognize this and we can get unstuck. And what I'm talking about here with these old habits of this conditioning, Mark, things like, I guess the easiest way to explain it is with phrases some of us grew up with, like, well, do you think money grows on trees or something? Or the person down the street is rich is probably because they did something illegal. Or you may as a child have heard, you'll never amount to anything unless you graduate from college.
Yeah, and Linda, we've all heard that. I mean, all of that throughout our lives. It's funny because when you start recognizing the phrasing and things like that, it's like, watch your step. Well, I'm going, don't tempt fate. You know, I just like don't jinx me. You know, I was doing fine. But isn't that funny? And you're right. And it's when we were little kids, because we run with abandon when we're little, right? We don't know that if we touch that, we're going to burn our hands, or if we run in front of a car, we will get killed, and that's a definite end to your life type of thing. We go with abandon on things, but then all of a sudden, you're right. All of these, oh, nope, watch your step. Make sure you don't do that. You know, watch how you handle that. Don't say this, don't say that. And the next thing you know, you're in this box, and you're just going, oh, wow, and you don't even know you're in that box. It's all been conditioned. So, Linda, let's chat. How do we get out of that box?
Yeah, I know, isn't it really funny when you stand back and think about the fact that as an adult, you're making decisions about your life based on your perception from when you were probably about 5 years old.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, the good news is we do have some tools, and we can get out of that box. And as you said, one of the things is recognition. When we were that very young age, we had some intellectual faculties that weren't developed, and absolutely everything around us was freely planting itself in our subconscious mind, and that's how these things got there. So again, that's why it's really not our fault. But with these faculties that we have, we can start pulling ourselves up out of that rut and getting unstuck. Every time I hear unstuck, Mark, I'm having this vision of those big monster trucks going through mud pits.
Well, you know, and me too. I live out in the country, and we go 4x4, and that's all I'm saying. It's like, I'm not getting stuck today, and there's no Chevy going to be pulling me out.
Exactly. I'm going to just lift myself out. And yeah, just briefly, I'll name off these intellectual faculties that we have, but there's one key one that I want to focus on because I think that it's probably one of the most important ones when it comes to recognizing and getting us unstuck. You know, we have perception, which is the way that we look at things, and you know, we can change the way we look at it by just looking at it from a different angle by using our perception. You know, we have our will, which is not something that we force. It's something that's there to help us focus on things. And as a matter of fact, Mark, when we force something, that puts us into a negative vibration or a negative environment, and nothing bodes well when we try to force it. It's just like when you're spinning your tires in the mud. The more you rev it, the more you force it, the deeper you go. When you use your will like that in a forceful manner, that's exactly what happens. You get deeper and deeper in there. Memory is another one of our faculties. And, I have found, it's been my experience, and I'm sure it's been your experience too, that most of the people use their memory against themselves.
Exactly. And it's interesting too that all of this is something that, like you said, it was a gift that someone gave us to protect us when we couldn't discern between right or wrong. And then when we come into situations, our memory bank has nothing else to go on besides that, because there's nothing actually that came in the way now that will change that thought process, right? It's just like if you only learned how to walk and you never knew that you could run, that nobody knew how to run, well, you'd always only walk. So it makes sense, right? Again, right. It's not your fault, but you can change it.
Exactly. Another one of those faculties is intuition. I love intuition, and I think that women tend to tune into their intuition a lot more often than men, but it is a faculty that can be exercised. It's like a mental muscle, and when you exercise it, it grows. Your intuition is that positive internal nudge that you get every now and then to go in this direction or that direction, or I like to describe it as sometimes you'll walk into a room of people, either a party or you get home, and without anybody saying a word, you immediately know that you probably want to turn around and walk right back out again because you're about to deal with something very bad. You're about to deal with somebody else's bad mood, right? That's your intuition giving you a flag of warning there. The next one is reason, and reason is what we use to sort through things and decide what we're going to think about and how we're going to put some of these thoughts and ideas together and put together our plans. But, Mark, the one I really want to focus on is our imagination. As adults, so many times we put our imagination away. We put a lid on it, and a lot of that comes, and I'm not dissing education, and I'm not trying to diss school systems, but when we're an infant, our imagination is out there playing all the time. But when we get into school, it's like people try to put a lid on it, and eventually we put a lid on it because every time we try to exercise that imagination as a child, then somebody's saying, no, pay attention. You're not paying attention. You're daydreaming. You need to focus on what I'm saying, and you need to do this or that. And so we tend to tuck our imagination away. But really, Mark, our imagination is almost like the secret key. It's the secret tool. Because if you look around you right now, wherever you listeners are, you're listening on your computer, you're listening on a telephone, you're sitting in a chair, absolutely none of this could have ever happened unless it was imagined by somebody first.
Yeah, can you imagine? It was funny, too, because it just came across my Facebook today. If you were sitting in 1950 and somebody told you that they could, they were talking to somebody in Ireland on, their little device that they have in their back pocket, what would you have thought of them? You would have been calling for the Looney Tune factory to come and pick them up, right? And interesting, I was a big reader of Jules Verne when I was little. And to now be the age where I've seen all of those things that he imagined in that book to actually come to fruition and move past that, to me, it sparked even more inside me to know that anything for me is possible. Anything. I just have to imagine that it could be a possibility.
Exactly. Mark, the only limitations that any of us ever truly have are the ones we put on ourselves. Because if we can imagine it, it can happen. We can do it. But unfortunately, This is where that stuckness comes into play.
That's right. And I'm going to go, oh, there's that box happening. It's starting to grow.
It is. I mean, I don't know how many times in my past I imagined something. I thought, you know what, I can do this, and this would be so great. But then this little voice starts in my head, right? Oh, you can't do that. Oh, Linda, you're crazy. What makes you think that you can start up a business of your own and be successful? What makes you think?
I call it monkey chatter. When the monkey starts chattering, that's what's happening. And you have to learn how to quiet that voice, quiet that monkey, knock them off your shoulder. And you know what? Sometimes it's really hard, right, Linda? Sometimes it almost feels like an impossible task to be able to do that. So what do we say to people when they're sitting there going, I can't. I can't get the chatter out of my head. I can't silence that voice.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think that we want to tell them that it's okay. Let's recognize that voice, but let's put it in a place where it belongs. At the beginning of the show, I talked about this Mr. X, and this Mr. X is your comfort zone. And let's just say that you're playing around with a new idea. And that exercise, when you're kind of playing around with an idea, actually happens in what I call the conscious part of your mind. I like to picture our mind in two different pieces, like your conscious mind and then your subconscious mind. And so when you're playing around with this new idea in your conscious mind, I'm going to call that Mr. Y, just for simplicity. And so as long as you're playing around with it, it's not going to go anywhere. So you're still going to be in that box, in that comfort zone. But now the real magic happens. You're using your imagination and you're playing around with this new idea, and you're starting to kind of build this picture in your mind of you being or having this or having this business or this great relationship, whatever you're doing. And then all of a sudden you're feeling these really good feelings. In other words, you're getting emotionally involved with this picture and with this idea. And Mark, it's when you get emotionally involved with this idea that you start planting a seed. You start pushing this idea down into your subconscious mind. Now, Mr. X lives in your subconscious mind, right? And so when you start emotionally handing over this new idea to Mr. X, he doesn't want to leave. He's comfortable, remember? And so this is when he starts throwing out that monkey chatter. This is when he says, oh, Mr. Y, you're not allowed in here. I don't want to let you in. So I'm going to start throwing out these things, again, that worked when you were 5 years old, and most of the time you don't even realize that you say, okay, fine, I get it. I don't need to think this big. That's really silly. And then you go back into this comfort zone. But I'd like to call the comfort zone something different, too. I'd like to call a comfort zone bondage, because it's almost like you're putting yourself back in jail, right?
Exactly. You are in jail, And it's funny, too, because I bring logic into every time. Just another tool that you guys can use, too, when you find yourself in that space. I use pure logic. I'll look at it and I'll say, I'll start asking myself questions like, why do you believe that would be true? What's the evidence? What's the evidence? And it comes from my analytical mind as being a lawyer. That's the way I look at things. I'm going, well, if that is true, how do you discern that to be true? Where before, like Linda just said, I wouldn't have questioned it. I just kind of go, well, that's who I am. That's how I react to things. That's how I am. So deal with it. It got to the point where I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I wanted more. I wanted more than I wanted to deal with it. Does that make any sense to anybody? That's where you should be about right now.
Exactly. You want this desire, and you want your desire to be bigger than these excuses that you're going to start throwing out to yourself. Mr. X is going to start throwing to you. And you hit on a good point there too, Mark, about belief. question those beliefs. I love it. I love the question, why do I believe that? And I think another question is, as you said too, is it true? If you can actually answer that question, is it true 100% of the time? Most of the time that answer is going to be no. It's not true. And then you can even ask yourself, well, where did this belief come from? And when you ask that question, you're going to start tracing it way, way, way back, and you're going to realize that that excuse, that reason why you shouldn't move forward is rather silly when you stop and start asking these belief questions. And that's where I think John Assaraf has a great program out there, Praxis Now, Praxis. And Praxis is aligning your behavior with belief. In other words, it's not enough just to say, I believe that, but then you're acting differently. You're not in alignment. It's only when you line up those behaviors with what you truly believe. Like when you're really wanting to step out and do something new. Well, I believe I can do that. Okay. Well, are your behaviors aligned with that belief? Or are you still aligned with those old beliefs that you have been living in the past? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. And Linda, I think too that why people remain in the box or remain chained down is they're looking at it from a point of loss. Well, if I change this and I do that, I'm going to lose this friend or that friend. If I do this or I do that, my relationship with whomever is going to change. If I do this, then I'm going to have to look for that. And there's that risk, right? And it should, rather than make you fearful, it should really fire you up. Because the thing is, I have lots of friends, but many of them I don't have much to do with anymore. There's points in my life where we might reconnect here and there, but the people I have surrounding me right now are the people that drive my dream. And I don't regret, nor do I look back on the past to what those friendships were, or what that relationship was, or what that thing was. I look at it now and say, you served the purpose that you did. Now you no longer serve, so you have to go. But that's a hard step to take.
It's a very, very hard step to take, Mark, but you're so right. I mean, I look at it this way, too, when anyone is looking to transform. And those are very valid worries that a lot of people have until they realize and they understand that they can truly grow. The best gift that you can give anyone in your life, whether it's a friend that's going to come along with you or a relationship that's going to expand and grow with you, the biggest gift that you can give any of them is to grow yourself, to show them this works, this is me now, and I would love for you to come along, but if you're not ready for that, then thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the time we spent together, and move on. But you're going to show by example. Once you reach higher and higher, they're going to keep watching, and they're going to see you, and they're going to go, oh, now I get it. And I think, too, that's a relationship that my husband and I had as I was beginning my true growth journey, taking it seriously. Mark, there's no forcing anyone else to grow. There's no forcing opinions or thoughts or anything on another person. We have to allow that person to be who they are and love those pieces that we love about them, and then lead by example and show them the growth, and then they'll come along if they're meant to come along with you.
Exactly, and you have to realize that there are, like Linda said too, there are people that are not going to come along. They're not going to understand. They will fall by the wayside, and it hurts. Yeah, I've had friends some of them for a good portion of my life, and they weren't supporting me in what I needed to do next. Going through cancer was a big, big learning experience for me. I learned who was strong, who were my real friends, who was actually supporting me, who were the fakes that just hung out because of, either my personality or what I was doing in my life. You're always going to have those fringes. But the problem is we put way too much weight into all of it. We have to sit down and really make that list and say, what is it in my life that is important, what matters, and what's the rest of the stuff? And we have to direct and focus our energies. And I think, Linda, maybe next week we'll talk about that, directing energy and force towards our dreams and our goals, and actually how to do that, because I think that's an important step here. Don't you agree?
Oh, I definitely agree. And I love that as a topic for another episode. I think it's important that we're laying the foundation now, and a key step before we can truly drive the energy, direct the energy, and really, I guess, take those quantum leaps in our lives is what we talked about at the very beginning, and that's recognizing when we're stuck, recognizing that feeling. I don't know how to spell it, but I think when I say the feeling, people will get it. When you feel internally that you're bumping up against a brick wall, that's that stuckness. That's just that feeling of I can't move forward. When you're hearing that monkey chatter, when you are allowing your monkey chatter to talk you out of a dream, you can stop and recognize, oh, this means I'm stuck, but this also means that I have tools now that I can utilize, one of them being my wonderful imagination, to pull myself out of this rut. And Mark, the way that we use our imagination to pull ourselves out of this rut, this is very important, is to, number one, let it out to play. Carve out some quiet time and build that vision. Build a vision on the screen of your mind of exactly who you want to be and what you want to be doing. And you may have to start this by saying, in 6 months from now or a year from now, this is the life I am living. And build the picture. Just let it out. I say write it down first, because then that gives you a jumping off point to build this picture on the screen of your mind. And it also helps, something that we'll talk about next time, which is connecting with the law of attraction and connecting with the universe or God or spirit, whatever you want to call it. This is like you're giving your order to the universe as to what you want when you really sit down and focus on this vision of what you want. And feel it. Feel what it feels like to already have accomplished whatever it is that you want to accomplish. What does it feel like to be sitting around or maybe across from a new relationship and you're totally in love and you're looking starry-eyed at each other? What does that feel like? Or what does it feel like when you tell your loved ones, your relatives, your mother, about the success that you've had in this business that you've built all on your own? What does that feel like? Get emotionally involved with it. That is such a key tool to pull you out of that rut. And Mark, you don't do it just once and then let it go. You do it every day. Carve out some time. It doesn't have to be long. It can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Carve out time and jump into that picture. That's the way you begin to stop that monkey chatter. And that's also the way you really tune into your intuition. When you get those nudges that you feel are very, very positive and push you forward, even if it doesn't make total rational sense to you to take this next move, once you take that move, you listen to that intuition, you're going to look back and go, oh, well, that makes total sense. I should have, yes, I see why I took that step. Do you agree, Mark?
I do agree, Linda, and because we're walking into the unknown. It's like you can't look at it the same way that you would do everything that happens in your life. Well, you get up and you know what the Cheerios are like and the milk is fresh, and you put it in the bowl and you know what to expect from that experience. But when you're walking outside of the parameters of what you feel your life is, you're not gonna be, as like Linda says, you're not gonna be as perceptive of the shifts and changes. But once you move that through those periods, you are gonna feel the difference. You're actually gonna feel physically different. You're gonna feel light. You're gonna feel right. And when you're there, that's when you'll know. It's interesting how people who go through this process of just awareness, Just awareness. We teach it all the time. It's just being aware of laying quietly and feeling the air currents run across your body and different things like that, where people say when they practice it, I have people come back and say, you want to know something? I've been trying to lose 10 pounds for the last 20 years, and I probably lost the same 10 pounds that many times. But all I had to do was be quiet and think about my awareness of what was going into my mouth. I didn't go on a diet. I didn't pick one. I didn't go on Weight Watchers. I didn't go Jenny. I just looked at food differently and was aware of what it was and whether or not it served my purpose. And before I knew it, within a week or so, I was down 10 pounds. And really all I thought I was doing was laying down for 10 minutes every night and imagining my skinny self and how I have the power to believe and do. So interesting how things change all the way around when you make one little nudge in the positive.
Exactly, Mark. And you know, this is very important for our listeners to grasp too, because sometimes I've seen when people really start understanding their awareness and understanding the transformation that they can have in their lives, they feel a little bit overwhelmed. They think, oh, wow, I wanna change this in my finances, and I wanna do this in my relationships, and I want to do this in my job and this in my business, and it can be overwhelming because they think that they have to do all of this all at once. But the cool thing is, Mark, that any one of us, if we just pick one thing, one area of our lives to focus on, to focus our attention, our awareness on, to transform and to change, we're going to be amazed. You can't make a transformation, you can't make a change in one area of your life without it actually touching everything, because it's all connected.
You're right. We are connected. Our emotions, our thought processes are all connected. And once you take that little step, and you're right, Linda, it doesn't matter what it is. Just pick one little thing. Make sure it's an attainable goal. We'll talk about goal setting and that in future episodes, because it all ties in together. But for now, we're going to leave you with one little step. Just one little step. Have one little thing that you want to make better in your life. And don't make it such a big goal that I really wish all my kids would listen to me. Let's start with maybe, just small little things as when we're out in public, whatever it is. Just a small little goal. I want you to do that between now and next Tuesday. Think of one little thing that you want to shift into a different drive and work on that with all of your awareness. Like Linda says, I do it, I kind of daydream a little bit when I'm out driving or walking. I always lay down my head at night and think of the most amazing day that's coming up. I don't know what that day will bring, and I really don't care. I'm telling myself that it will be the most amazing, spectacular day that I've ever seen. And it is. It always is. Because I expect it, and what I expect comes into my life. So, Linda, last word is yours.
I would tag on to what you just said about expecting it and pre-paving your upcoming day. But I think the other thing that is so important, another little tool in the toolbox, is gratitude. Be grateful. Spend some time every day when you get up and list 5 or 10 things that you are truly grateful for, and you'll find that you truly have, at the end of the day, created an amazing day.
You betcha. So, my friends, we do wish upon you the best that life has to offer. That's what the shift is all about. Shifting, getting you unstuck, making you live the life that you really think that you can and cannot do. We're going to change all of that. And all you have to do is shift with us. Every Tuesday we're going to be here shifting, moving, shaking it up a little, rattling it a little bit, but we're going to be here for you. So from myself and Linda, we bid you good night, and we'll see you again on, I guess it's Monday, sorry, not Tuesday, next Monday.
And good night, everybody.